In the last section, we started adding in some middleware for handling, cleaning up all of our different blog posts on a particular user when they're about to get deleted. But we very quickly ran into an issue around a possible cyclical loading issue. We then fixed that up by making a direct reference to blog post by using the mongoose.model helper. So now we're ready to actually write a query to remove all of our different blog posts that are associated with this user. Now here's the real tough thing about this. Okay, this is like a query unlike any other that we've ever written before. Keep in mind that we want to remove all the blog posts associated with the user. But blog post right here is an array of IDs, and that is exactly where the challenge lies. We've already seen, back when we were going over all the remove methodology, how to remove a single record. So we can do something like blog post.remove, and maybe we can say like remove this given ID, right? Like we definitely know how to do this. This will go over our blog post collection, find every single record with this particular ID and remove it. But now we're saying that we have an array of IDs and we want to remove every single one of those from the blog post collection. So I'm going to tell you right now, the solution is absolutely not to iterate over the list of IDs. So do something like this blog posts dot each, and then inside of here, for each ID, I want to issue a delete request. This is definitely not the solution we want to take. If you ever find yourself in this type of situation where you feel like you want to make iterate over an array of records and then issue one database update for every record, I really urge you to pause for a second and try to figure out whether or not that's the best solution. In this case, given that we want to take an array of IDs and delete each single one, instead of iterating over the list, we are going to use another little Mongo operator. So you might remember our first operator inside of our update function, our update tests. So this is my update test file right here. And at the very bottom, if I scroll all the way down, you'll recall that we use that increment operator. So with the increment operator, we were using this to modify a collection of data. There's another class of operators that can be used for querying records as well. So increment was a update operator. We want to use a query operator called in. So I'm going to throw up some code and we're going to talk about exactly how it works. So I'm going to say, look at all the IDs inside this collection. I want to delete anything inside of this .blog posts. Okay, that's a pretty big change right there. So let's take just a second to digest it. Remember first that this is a reference to our instance of a user. So in this case, in the world of our tests, this is equal to Joe. So if we say this .blog posts, this is going to be an array of all the IDs of all the blog posts that we want to delete. The in operator says, go through all the records in the blog post collection, look at their IDs. If the ID is in this array, like go through this array and do a little match on each and every single one, then I want to remove that record. Okay, one more time, go through all of our blog posts, look at all their IDs. If the ID is in this list right here, go ahead and remove it. And that's it. Okay, so that's nearly it for our middleware. There's just one last little piece of bookkeeping that we have to be aware of. It is assumed by default that the middleware that we write might be kind of asynchronous in nature. Like, this right here, definitely asynchronous. This is going to take some amount of time to execute. But we want to make sure that the entire middleware is executed before our record actually gets removed, before the user actually gets removed. So to accommodate for this asynchronous nature, all of the middleware that we write starts to make use of this concept called next, or a function called next. Every middleware that we define, the function that we define right here is going to be called with a function called next. After we finish all the work that we want to accomplish inside this middleware, we call the next function, and that tells Mongoose, hey, everything we've done is all complete. You can move on and call the next middleware if one exists, or otherwise remove the record from the database. So we can relate this really easily back to the diagram we were looking at. When we attempt to remove a user, we will automatically call middleware number 1. And then Mongoose is just going to kind of sit around and twiddle its thumbs until our middleware number 1 calls next. Once next is called, middleware number 2 will be called. Once middleware 2 calls next, then we actually issue the remove event. Then we go to middleware number 3. We wait for next to be called. We go to 4, and so on. You get the idea. So after we remove the model, we'll chain on a .then, and then inside of here, we call next. And that's pretty much it. So remove all these records. When it's done, go on to the next middleware. If one doesn't exist, then just go ahead and remove this record. All right, so I'm going to save this file. We've added in the middleware, but we don't have any tests put together just yet. So let's take a quick break and then come back and add in a new test file to test out this middleware that we've just implemented.